The other area of interest that I have is in kinship care. And I must admit, Madam Deputy Speaker, I had not really heard of kinship care until a few years ago, but I grew up in kinship care. I was the eldest of 3 boys. My mum had me at 19, and times got pretty tough as a teenager, and things boiled over, and eventually the relationship with my parents broke down. And I left home, and I never went back. And as cock as I was at sort of 14, 15 years old, I couldn't have lived on my own. But luckily I had my grandparents there who stepped up to take me on. My nan and pops, as I knew them, helped sort of pick up the pieces and put me back on the straight and narrow. And I went from a boy that started to fall behind in school and drink a bit down the park to slowly sort of take my education more seriously and get my act together. And if it wasn't for my grandparents, I'm pretty sure that I wouldn't be standing on these green benches today. It wasn't easy for them though. They were on a state pension, they were in a council house, they didn't have a lot to give, but what they did have to give was love, guidance and support. And crucially, that was accepted readily by me because they already had my trust, they already had my respect, they had authority over me because they were my grandparents. And I think this is the real power of keeping care within the family. There are bonds that are ready-made, that are really difficult to replicate in any other form of care, and they provide the foundation that children need to thrive. And this bill is groundbreaking in respect to kinship care, I acknowledge that, but we have so few opportunities to make change in this area, and I'm determined to get it right the very first time. Now, my honourable friend, the member for Twickenham, has laid down amendments on kinship care leave, kinship allowances, extending the pupil premium and prioritising school admits, all of which I have put my name to too, and I strongly hope that the government can find a way to support. But I have also laid down my own amendment, 174, which would ensure that kinship families are actively engaged in shaping and forming the local authority policies that are outlined in this legislation. We do this when developing policies for children with special educational needs, and I think it's a simple principle that there should be nothing about us without us. Kinship is a particularly complex form of care. There's lots of history to the relationships, and I think we need to appreciate those special nuances and listen to the kinship carers when developing policy as well, and make sure that the authorities hear the voice of kinship families when designing the system to support them. Madam Deputy Speaker, I wish that my grandparents had lived long enough to see me take up this place on these benches. They would have been very proud. But I hope today that we can begin to say thank you to them and to the thousands of kinship carers like them by working towards the strongest possible rights and support. Thank you.